mom raised me very well, with great mannerisms and all that. And I lived that type of life. Like, once you lose it, the type of life you want back. And unfortunately, she got addicted to crack cocaine during the early '80s crack epidemic, and that kind of like abruptly thrust us into the projects, and that whole lifestyle began as far as me being, caught up in criminality and all that.
Hey, what's poppin'? We've got a special guest in the building, an entrepreneur that goes by the name of Divine. He's the founder of Black Group, a recording artist, a speaker, an advocate, and an actor who is formerly incarcerated with only an 8th grade education. What's good, Divine?
What's good? What's
so
good?
many things to talk about.
Yeah.
So let's start from the beginning. What was it like for you growing up?
Well, yeah, initially, I grew up middle class. I was born and raised in my youth in Newport, Rhode Island. Mother was middle class, always worked, you know what I mean? That was kind of like the foundation we had. I knew who my father was, but him and my mother were really together. And he was in and out the house once in a while. And there really was no foundation with my pops. But nevertheless, my mom raised me very well, with great mannerisms and all that. And I lived that type of life. Like, once you lose it, the type of life you want back. And unfortunately, she got addicted to crack cocaine during the early '80s crack epidemic, and that kind of like abruptly thrust us into the projects, and that whole lifestyle began as far as me being, caught up in criminality and all that.
How did that happen, and what got you incarcerated?
Well, there was something between my mother and my father. They were supposed to got married. My father was already married, things like that, and infidelity, things of that nature. Him just being unfaithful, and just my mother wasn't, she just broke it down, mentally, emotionally. She had that breakdown, and one day I came home from Catholic school, and everything in the house was being sold like at a house sale, like everything was being sold, and she went with this unscrupulous type of dude, and moved down to Louisiana, Leesville, Louisiana, and that kind of thrust us, me and my younger brother, into the projects, and kind of seeing that whole dynamic, and eventually. Fast forward, we had actually went down to Louisiana with her for a while, for about a year, came back, and that's when the crack epidemic was just full blown. She got caught up into that, and that kind of like thrust me in a position like, how do I survive? How do I provide food, clothing, and shelter? Because the rent was never paid, no food in the refrigerator. Like, that was a real experience I was going through. So I saw what everybody else was doing to make money, and I kind of gravitated towards that, and that's how I started hustling at about 13 years old. I became very, very good at it. I think that's due to my DNA intelligence. My father was an entrepreneurial mind, you know what I'm saying? And I would learn about him, what I knew about him. He was entrepreneurial, always worked his own thing, roofing and painting. So I kind of picked up those things like naturally. And then as I started entering the streets, I just started maneuvering through the streets at a high level at a very young age. And even for the place that I was at, being Newport, Rhode Island, with the crack epidemic,
Wow, so you were going through this whole thing with your mom. Is she out of prison at this point?
She wasn't incarcerated. She was just, addicted to drugs.
Got you.
Addicted to crack.
Okay.
Just full blown. It was
Okay.
crazy. Yeah, and I was just going through it with her in the sense of just loving her and not wanting to give up on her. And I think that's really what led me to the streets and to want to be high level, because I was like, yo, I need a lot of money because I want to take us all out of this predicament. Me, my younger brother, my family, my mother, get her off drugs. And ironically, I was using drugs to do that as a way to get that money,
I mean, that's a kind of situation that you see a lot in the hood, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's like a survival mechanism. Like,
Absolutely.
What do you need to do to survive? And unfortunately, a lot of our black men get caught up in that situation because you gotta survive.
Exactly.
So, how long were you incarcerated?
A total of a decade. Yeah, 10 years incarcerated. A total. First time I went away for a major drug charge was for 7 years. I got 7 years sentenced under the draconian crack law. So I was one of the first dudes in Rhode Island to be hit with the crack law. The very first dude to be hit with the crack law in Newport, Rhode Island. But I would travel to Philadelphia, and in my young age, that's where I would procure my drugs from, and then I would hit New York City. But then I would bring it back up top to New England, because it was much more, I get more money for it, you know, it was much more expensive. So that's kind of how I did. I sourced it from there, and I was getting high quality, dealing with high level individuals, and I was getting large amounts of it. So I was doing like about 2 kilos a month.
Wow. So when you got out, what was that transition like, having been incarcerated for over 10 years? Like, what was?
Yeah. I mean, just living, dealing with recidivism, just living a criminal lifestyle. Like I dedicated my life to that at a very young age. So it became like, it was part of my subconscious. It's just what I did, and how I moved through the streets, and that was how I provided, food, clothing, and shelter for me and my younger brother all my life, and that's what I always done. So to break out of that and to come out of that is hard. Even though you don't want to do something, you still engage in it, right? Even though my heart was somewhere else, my mind was caught up in the street life and living that criminal lifestyle, that criminal culture, because I had done it since I was about 13 years old. So it was hard to break out of that. And then coming from making all kinds of money that I was making, hundreds of thousands of dollars, in weeks and in months, going to that to work a 9 to 5, making, minimum wage, it was just crazy. Even if I could even get a job from the door,
So how did you get involved in tech? Like, what was that transition like? How did you find out about it? What made you say, okay, this could be an opportunity for me?
Yeah, I was incarcerated. I was 100% dissatisfied last time I was incarcerated, about 6 years ago now. And I was like, yo, I put a determined idea in my mind, like, yo, I gotta change, I gotta break this. Because I knew I was too intelligent to be incarcerated. I knew I was too intelligent to keep engaging in criminal activity at this age and at this stage of life. And I always felt I had a greater purpose. And I always believed in myself at that type of level. I just didn't know how to get to that point, right? I was able to do that in a drug game, but that had a ceiling, right? It was at the time where I'm like, yo, I've been incarcerated too long, dealing with recidivism in and out of prison, doing all these years, and I really got nothing to really show for it. So I was determined to change my life. I was like, you know what, I'm gonna become an entrepreneur. I like the process of making money.
I mean, you technically
get into it, you know what I mean?
Were an entrepreneur.
Right. Well, formally one, a legitimate entrepreneur, you know what I mean?
But that is conceptually the same.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Definitely there's a lot of similarities,
right.
Parallels. And it connects definitely, and I realized that later when I got the formal education of entrepreneurship and startup building. So I read about venture capitalist Ben Horowitz, that's my guy. Read about him and how he loved hip hop, and I kind of connected with that. And I'm like, yo, what if I actually thought to myself in the cell, I was like, yo, what if I get this individual to, to believe in and support me? That could change my life forever. So I kind of went down that pathway. When I came home, eventually reached out to him after seeing him on TV 2 years after I was out. And I decided to reach out to him on Twitter and just took that step and was like, yo, I read about you, I'm a rap recording artist all my life. I sold drugs. I did this lifestyle. Like, will you mentor me?
Wow.
And things manifested, man.
Was that straight ask? Because, for you guys who don't know who Ben Horowitz is, it's one of the biggest funds, and Andreessen Horowitz is literally one of the biggest funds in Silicon Valley. So was that just a consistent, like, ping, 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 or was it like, hey, Ben, what's good? And then he answered?
Yeah. He saw the connection. He saw the hip hop connection immediately. I told him, I read about him and I told my story, and I just kind of like appealed to his philanthropic side, if you would, to be like, when people are philanthropic, which I learned that he was, I know they have empathy. If they don't have empathy, they at least got sympathy for people's plights, right? So I read his blog. I saw how he was the proceeds from his book, The Hard Thing About Hard Things. He was donating those proceeds to a charity of his, trying to help women in the struggle in Africa and overseas and all that. So I was like, yo, there's a connection here. And I felt his energy, and just from the way he wrote his blog, I felt a lot of energy from him, and I connected to that. So I just appealed to that. You know what I'm saying? I appealed to that, like, yo, listen, this is what it is. And I didn't come asking for money, right? My initial thought was like, yo, get him or ask him to invest in your music endeavors. And at that point, I really had the opportunity. I'm like, yo, nah, that's not what it is. It's bigger than that. Music is only one aspect of what I do. I just believe that I had greater skill sets, or greater skill set, or greater skills. Within that skill set, I didn't even identify them at that point, but I just knew I had them, and I didn't know what they were. And as I started coming through the process of coming into Silicon Valley and the tech, that experience drew all of them things out of me for me to start learning about, okay, skill set and the skills that it takes to build startups and be an entrepreneur. And I started identifying all these things that I had in me that I never even knew what to call them, right? I just had them.
Right.
And never even used them.
Right.
Yeah, they all came out when I had that opportunity.
So then how did you build that relationship with Ben over time? Because I know at this point you guys are super close, but what was that like going from hitting him on Twitter to now?
Yeah, it was like, Ben's the type of guy, like, he's authentic. Like, a lot of people don't, they think, like, a lot of people on the outside don't really know how deep Ben is connected to Black culture. Besides him being married to a Black woman, you know what I'm saying? And big up Felicia Holmes, by the way. You know what I'm saying? Straight out of Compton.
Right, literally.
Literally straight out of Compton. But people don't, they just look at him having an African-American wife, him listening to hip-hop music, but they don't really know the depth of his connection to Black people, to Black culture, to Black struggle. And it's very, very intimate. And a lot of people don't realize that. And I didn't realize the depth of that until I started coming around him and seeing like his friends, his family, how he engaged. So Ben's just an authentic dude. If he feels something, he feels it. If he doesn't, he doesn't. You know what I mean? And the needle can move from he feels it to where he doesn't feel it. And that comes from individuals, that comes from people around him. You know, because I've seen a lot of people come around, and not necessarily all of them are still coming around. But he gives people an opportunity. I wouldn't say he's high selective. He's selective, but not in the sense of where he won't give somebody at least hear him out if the opportunity presents itself, right? Some things he don't reach for much. Like Ben's not gonna just reach for certain things, but being who he is, he gets inundated with a lot of different things, a lot of different people, a lot of different requests and asks, and you know, he can't fulfill everything and engage with everybody. But those that he chooses to engage with, it's real and it's authentic. So building that relationship with him was just more so just me being authentic and being real with who I am and you know what I wanted to do. And a lot of people say, you know, it's crazy you asked Ben to mentor, you just had to ask, you reached out to him, that's crazy. I'm like, nah, that's not crazy. That's just me being real of what I want and what I wanted. I read about him, I connected with him. I'm like, yo, if I can connect with this man and get him and have him mentor me, get him to mentor me, then that'd be next level for me. And I really wanted to change my life. That's all it was about, me just having the opportunity to change my life. And that was what was presented to me. And so I took that pathway.
So do you recommend, I mean, obviously you did that. Do you recommend, first of all, how did you zero in on Ben? Why was he the choice? And then do you recommend people who are even in that kind of similar situation to go find a mentor?
Yeah, I think, first of all, I think mentorship is one of the most powerful, probably unrealized strengths. Being an entrepreneur, just being an individual, just trying to elevate and level up and skill up, mentorship can go a long way. If you have mentors like Ben and people at high stature and high level, especially in these industries where they're the voice of these industries, or they're the go-to guys in these industries, it just catapults you to that next level in such a fast, rapid way. But with Ben, his mentorship was everything. I think I owe Ben a lot. That's why I always, no matter what, I always go back and say, it's Ben and Felicia. Like I always say, Ben opened the door, Felicia ushered me in, right? Because it was a team effort between the both of them that got me to develop myself to where I'm at now. They gave me opportunity, and I used to always tell Felicia all the time, Felicia, thank you so much for this opportunity and the things you do for me. You're very you're genuine and you're very helpful. And she would always say, Devon, you're doing the heavy lifting. So it's all about, not only the mentor doing their part, but you doing your part as well. So I just double down on that. Every opportunity I have, I'm trying to double down and show and prove I'm worthy of that blessing. You know what I mean? And that's what I think helped cement the relationship and build the relationship to the level that it's at now. You know what I mean? Where, they're like family.
That's dope. Tell us about Black Group.
Yeah, Black Group, yeah. So Black is an acronym that stands for Building, Leverage, Acquiring Knowledge. And for me, that was a process that I always used throughout my life to get to that next level. In the streets, I applied it. In prison, I applied it. And in real life, I'm applying it in the sense of being an entrepreneur and building a startup. So Black was this idea of mine to solve my own personal pain point and then bring that to my people, which was, how do you become financially and economically empowered when you come from a background that's impoverished. You come from a background where you're a former drug dealer, you're formerly incarcerated, and like my man Shaka, my brother Shaka says, system impacted. It's a more, it's the most cleaner word. You know what I mean? Gives you a little bit more shine to
I
it.
love it.
System impacted, you know? So how do you come from that and be able to elevate? So my whole thing was build and leverage acquiring knowledge. Take that, create a product around it that has a social impact piece to it, because that's really big for me. I didn't want to create anything that didn't have a social impact component. So that's why I started with the financial literacy, entrepreneurship education, and I was inspired by the principles of Black Wall Street, right? The principle of cohesion, collaborative effort, cooperative economics, and what they were able to do back then. And you look at what we're doing now, the way we move. It's not like we should be ashamed of, of what we're doing now. For our ancestors to be able to do what they did with much less, and elevate the way they did. So I took that whole premise and concept, and I applied it modern day. And I was building the black card, a prepaid debit card. Since then, though, I iterated on that multiple times. As you know, as an entrepreneur, you have the proverbial pivot, and the course correction. You know what I mean? So I did my course correction and did the pivot, and now I'm really, really, really happy about where Black is and where I'm about to take it. I can't talk too deep about it, but Black is back, definitely. For 2019, and I'm excited about what's in store. We reached out to some people, and potentially co-founding and some funding. So trying to close those deals, get them done soon, and rebuild Black.
Super dope. So how does one find out more about Black or you?
Find out about me. I'm on social media. Heavy on my social media. Divine fourth letter, DIVINE. The number 4 TH letter. Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. As far as Black right now, like I said, we in stealth right now. Kind of going underground for a second. I've been on hiatus for a second, and I put it on hold for a minute so I could really focus on really fine tuning the value prop. Value proposition, and really fine tuning the offering, and really iterating on it in a way that I know I can really build it. Because like you mentioned earlier, I have a formal 8th grade formal education, right? That's all I have. Everything beyond that, I'm self-taught. So it's been a lot of me going through the learning curve, the ups and downs, building a team, rising to the top, dropping to the bottom. You know what I'm saying? You know the struggle yourself. You're an entrepreneur.
I know
what it
it
is.
all too well.
It's not all glitz and glamour. But we do it for the gram, though. You know how we do it. You gotta do it for the gram. But
or the check. I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. You know what I'm saying? But anyway, that's where it's at. And right now, like I said, it's in stealth mode. But you'll be hearing some things soon popping up.
Super dope. Well, thank you so much, Divine, for sliding through the Commas Club.